All right. Good morning, Coach.
Morning. It is already February. It's February 1st, the year 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 747.
747. Is this Groundhog Day, too?
Like where he comes out and...
Yeah, the shadow chucks upon Puxatony Phil.
I do not know.
I used to be addicted to that when I was a kid. I'm like, please make it a short spring.
Everybody was. And that's tomorrow, February 2nd. I just looked it up. Happy Groundhog Day, February 2nd.
Yeah, that's nice.
You going to watch Groundhog Day tomorrow in celebration, Bill Murray?
No, I won't watch anything tomorrow like that.
Yeah, but yeah.
I might watch the live viewing of the groundhog shadow thing.
That's right. Didn't they used to do that in the lawn of the White House?
No, it's it's up in Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah, but
they used to have they set it up like a formal thing.
Yeah, the big reveal.
Yeah, they'd all wear top hats and shit like that, and then the groundhog, they'd let it out of I don't know, and it would it run back into its cage or something?
How weird are we as a species?
Well, I don't know. Animals are very instinctual.
We should wear top hats and weird clothes and have a rat-like creature crawl out of the ground on a day of the year, and then if they see their shadow or not, that's going to let us know how long it's going to stay cold or when it's going to get warm. Makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, we're big on ceremonies. Maybe we should. Maybe we should. I think Iron Man should have top hats and for the podium ceremony. Mike Riley's new guy has to. Maybe he could. That's how he could redefine himself.
Yeah, I like that. A little tuxedo.
He could come out and
everybody gets a birthday suit, a cane, and a top hat for the podium.
They'd be saying, "Who's Mike Riley? Who?" Within a year.
Exactly. This is an upscale gala.
Guy.
This is an event.
Yeah.
They did just name their new CEO. Finally, I got to do a little bit more research on him before I can talk about him with any level of education. But yeah, they did just name their new. Yeah, it's kind of
been a big wait for that, man.
I mean, I like to know what they've done in the past and how they're going to spice things up.
He's done a lot of acquisitions and mergers, and I'm sure we're going to be.
Yeah, of course they have something to appease the shareholders, and everyone always complains anyway. So it's like, but yeah, I like to know stuff like that. And then the PTO, I guess, renamed themselves. Been a semi big week, but yeah, it is February. Hope you're all having a good start to the week and a good start to the month. We're already 1/12 through the year. Can you believe it?
Man, slow down, dude. Can we just be here?
I know. And regardless,
we should get that guy in the podcast, by the way, the new CEO.
Oh yeah, and regardless of what this rodent does tomorrow, I hope we get weather like we're having right now, because it is. I had my sunroof open the last 2 days.
Windows?
It's my sunroof open the last 2 days. 2 weeks ago, I had to I was setting up a station out the back door that waffles could go in and out of, so I wouldn't even feel the air coming in because it was so cold.
Yeah.
It was putting up some plastic wrap. I'm like, I'm going to keep this barricaded in, and I'm like, the blinds are shut. I got to keep the heat in, and now it's freaking fantastic. So yeah, I mean, whatever the rodent needs to see, let the rodent see it, whether it's shadow or not. I'm not really sure how that works. But if first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. I know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. He and I talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between, and from all over the globe. We'll use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also like to utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. Let's write in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource in a sport that is oftentimes way too confusing and way too complicated. It is a solid, safe space to get actionable information from people who are just like you, not from professionals, not from sports scientists, but from people you can relate to and help you avoid some of the pitfalls we've all had along the way. That's also been a very popular spot the last week as we've been announcing our coaches. We'll be announcing, I think, 5 males and 4 female coaches over the next few days, and those are going off great. Awesome people, awesome opportunities. If you're looking for a coach, check them out. Been introducing them and some fun facts along the way. But yeah, great space. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, so you had the sunroof on, huh? What are you driving, a Tesla now?
Yes, Tesla.
I just had this image.
Do Teslas even have sunroofs?
I don't know. They have
got solar
probably
panels.
Something a little more sophisticated than that.
Yeah, for sure. Like the whole entire hood of the hood and the roof of the car comes totally off and folds down.
Like a lunar module or something.
A lunar module. I mean, you got a sunroof in the Caddy,
separate from your yeah, I do, but I can't figure out how to use it sometimes. I don't know.
I mean, sometimes if you can figure out how to use it once, you can figure out how to use it more than once.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you got to hold the button a while, and I'm never sure if I don't know. It hasn't been sunny here.
It sounds like you have sunroof anxiety.
Long.
You're
I do have
sunroof anxiety. How to use it, so you don't use it. I mean, you better learn, man. At least learn.
I never drive.
That's also true. You don't ever drive. So this is a great point. This is a fantastic point.
I deliver packages to the post office when people order gear, and that's about it.
The C26 Courier.
Courier.
We got a topic for today. And first off, before we get into it, thank you for the athletes that we've been getting a lot of emails with a lot of thank yous. So we appreciate that. It's always good to hear from our listeners in a variety of fashions. So we appreciate that because it's also good. It's just good to know who we're talking to. And I like that. So again, thanks for taking the time for that. You know, you brought up a conversation earlier before we were going live, and it also reminded me, now that we're kind of going through it and decided on that topic for today, how frequently this topic comes up with athletes, especially triathletes, right? Because we're not just goal driven, we're expectation driven, and we pull these expectations out of really thin air, like almost with basically most triathletes pull their expectation for a time or a placement or an award or a podium with about the scientific precision as this rodent that comes out of the ground tomorrow and decides when the weather's going to change. It's very, very similar. There really is no science. It's just, you know what, this sounds good. And the problem with that is I find the beginning of the year and then the closer you get to a race day, people can make a lot of bad decisions with that. Like so just give you a few examples. And really what we're going to talk about today is a phrase that I've used before that we use in recovery called future tripping. And obviously, most people will associate the word tripping with, drug use or anything like that. But when I first heard that in a meeting room one time, it's talking about don't go future tripping. And usually it's when you go to two ends of the spectrum, right? You're tripping over something that could happen that more than likely won't happen, but you're planning on it happening. So when you plan on it happening, you go through all the scenarios of it happening and the effects it could have on your life. And then you spiral into Google searches and Wikipedia and Google Doc and how my life's going to be. And then you obviously figure out that none of it's reality because none of it's happening. The other part of it is people go future tripping on to things that going like absolutely perfect and what that has to look like and what things need to be. And often, almost always, but very oftentimes, those lead to major mistakes that athletes make and individuals make. Like I think we all make, no one's in their best decision-making headspace or mindset when they are leading out of fear or ego. I think everybody would agree with that. Like, when you're fearful, you tend to make poor decisions. When you're working with your ego, you tend to make poor decisions, right? You're not leading with an educated, objective, kind of common sense point of view, bird's eye view. It's more so, the tree, not the forest. And so, you and I work with, a lot of type A, a lot of very driven, a lot of very performance oriented, goal oriented athletes who they don't just want to do this race, they want to do really well. And then, Ironman provides so many, every race, right? Every format offers opportunities for like that next level of, we'll call it the top hat tuxedo level, right? The podium level, the award level, the qualifying for, you got qualifying for everything these days. You got, USAT. It's you qualify for USAT nationals if you basically show up and finish the event and, finish on the 33% of the thing. You're making USA Nationals. When you go to USA Nationals, you can qualify for Team USA, and you go to, you go to different level. You go to ITU Worlds or World Championships. You got 70.3 Worlds. You got Kona. You got this year. There's always that extra level like that. Again, the tuxedo top hat level. And it's very enticing. That's why they do it, right? Because it's enticing. It makes you want to work hard, gives you a little bit of something to chase, which I think is great. But what happens though is when you put all of or qualifying for Boston is another one, or just simply the amount of weight an athlete will put behind their A race for the year. That's it. It's the only race. I got a PR there. Then what oftentimes is you kind of like work your way backwards from day one is in order to foresee yourself getting a PR, getting a podium, qualifying for Worlds, qualifying for Boston, finishing your first half marathon. It all sounds very all or nothing. And then a lot of those, again, and we talk about this so often, is that so much of it is out of our control, right? Because you can show up to a race and try to qualify for Boston, be in the absolute best shape of your life, and in probably Boston qualifying fitness or PR fitness for a half marathon, 10K, whatever it is. And you might wake up and you might have just a really crappy day fitness wise. Your body just says no, just like it does the other 360 days a year. Or it might be 95 degrees outside, 70% dew point, and it's just not in the cards. So it seems like a failure. Or same thing could go for an Ironman. Or, I always have this conversation with athletes and even with Hayden, we're talking about hockey and playing hard and putting in your effort and like just the other day, they won their game 20-2. It was just a total beatdown. And he's like, yeah, we won. I was like, well, you got to remember that the scoreboard is one piece of the pie. But if you didn't play well and you didn't try hard, is it as good as if you had tried hard and played well and lost? He's like, no, I guess not. And he rolls his eyes. He's like, thanks, Dad. And I'm like, whatever. I know you're not going to remember this in like 2 seconds. But, you show up to a race and you show up against a weak field and you win, right? You win your age group. But you don't feel like you got every ounce out of you. So which one is the win, right? Or you show up to a race and you're trying to qualify for the World Championships. And guess who else shows up? Everybody, right? Every single person wants to show up. And then you get 11th in your age group. And you PR by like 40th. You're the race of your life, but you don't qualify. What's the win? You and I both had athletes all the time where you look at, historical times and you're like, dude, this should have won this age group. Like last year you would have been first. This year you were ninth. Mm-hmm. Right? I remember this is I think the last year of Ironman Louisville. We had a guy in the top 10 overall at Ironman Louisville. Went 9:30 something, or no, low nines or high 8s, low nines because the swim was canceled or shortened, whatever it was. Top 10 overall, didn't even make the podium in his age group.
Yeah,
it's insane, right? So when you're talking about like so much goes into it, so much luck. But again, going back to like why this matters now is if you're putting all your eggs and all your focus and you're including that into your daily decision making, it's going to lead you astray. Because you're either going to go way too hard, way too often, right? You're not going to skip a session when you should skip a session. Everything has to be perfect because basically from the time you sign up and the time you make this goal, any sign of imperfection, any missed session, any level of inconsistency, any injury, any sickness, any perceived, right, real or not, step backwards is going to be an impediment to this lofty expectation, big, hairy goal you set out with really no scientific data and research, but that you just throw it out there. And so now you feel behind in January. And when you feel behind, guess what you do? You make bad decisions. And that's just something I can't encourage every athlete enough to not. It's great to have goals. It's great to have expectations, right? But they have to be measured, and you can't use that as your day-to-day obsession, because it will 100% lead you down the wrong path.
Yeah, it'll wear you out. As you were talking, I was thinking, okay, what's the difference between making a plan and having a goal and future tripping? And I think it's really kind of being obsessed with that goal instead of, I was telling you beforehand, I've been reading some of that Marcus Aurelius stuff and that Stoicism, and which since getting back into Obstacles Away, I've really been into this. But it's so wild how things from hundreds of years ago still are applicable in today's society. And one of the things he was saying is that we have one major goal in life, and that's to not be distracted. I mean, really, all we can do is what's in front of us. And I feel like that's the thing I'm always striving towards in training too, is you can have a plan and a structure and things laid out. And like you said, usually work it from backwards and decide where your goal is going to be. But the only thing you can do right now is what's in front of you, and to be better with that, because but I think there's such a lure, man. And we were talking about this before the cast too, is there's such a lure, because everywhere you look, there's always these, carrots on sticks just hanging everywhere. And now they're listening to your phones and putting exactly what you say to someone else in an ad right in front of you. And the next thing you know, you're like, yeah, maybe that's what I need. Maybe that's what's going to put me over the top. But really, and I put out, after our cycling thing, I sent a thing out to the athletes, just some things to think about when cycling. And there's a lot of little variables in there that are technical and a bunch of different things like that. But I said, goal number one is if you're not getting on the bike 3 days a week, let's not even talk about these other things. So it really is about just building habits, I think, a lot of times, and being in that habit each day, or that in positive habit, because as we know, there's a million distractions out there, and everywhere we look, something can pop up and take us away from, I guess, the path to our goal. It's sort of like, a lot of people too want to cut their own path, and I understand that. And that can be admired. But if we have, I get such a challenge in not getting, bored with something. And I'm just fascinated by that, because sometimes, and I know you feel like this too, sometimes you've talked about variety is for the weak. That phrase, and everybody, I get how people might not like that, but there's certain times during training, especially for me, when I just really look forward to the mundane, just the same kind of little things. And what I'm really fascinated by is, how do I get there? Like, you can have huge goals, and for many, many years, and I've been open about it, the podium drove me always, every year. I want to get on the podium, I want to go to Kona, blah blah blah. And there's some spark in that for sure, but eventually it kind of wears out, and then you have to just sort of, like I was saying a while ago, is kind of, you got to pull up that hoodie and just lock into what you're doing right now. But the interesting part again is just how does that happen? I know you have a lot of athletes, I'm sure, that just are able to do this. They're excited about what's coming today and how that fits into the progression, and how that work that they're doing right at that moment is going to translate 6 months from now, or at least that pattern of action. So, because I know you get there too. It's sort of like, all right, I'm going to do this bike workout 4 weeks in a row. It's not going to bore me. It's going to intrigue me. Or run the same route. How am I getting better? Am I learning things on this? How I get there is what just kind of makes me so interested in the way we think.
You and I probably have this conversation daily with an athlete. And it is, and you said it, like, if we're only doing 2 bike workouts a week, why are we having this conversation? And I think it's human nature, right? To future trip. Like it's easier to a degree to go down fantasy what if road, than it is to focus on the present in reality, which is just like you said, like a different level of distraction. And it's, I think, especially for, triathletes who have these races so far in the future, it is so much easier to focus on the event, the end date, the reward, the day, the red carpet, whatever it is, 8 months from now, than it is to put that same level and effort into the details of today and what matters. Because if you can't put the effort and the time and the commitment into being disciplined enough to do today, then what makes you think you're going to be able to do it in 8 months? And some athletes they let that roll off their back and they can miss a few days and get right back on track. And I think that's an enormous gift. The ability to get back on track without delay, right? Without self-sabotage, without a drastic change in goals. I mean, sometimes we'll have athletes who, in January, I've got this big goal for, in August, September. I really think it is week 2 in January doesn't go well. Hey, coach, I'm trying to thinking about rearranging the schedule. I'm just not really feeling like I'm going to be in the right spot. I'm like, whoa. Let's slow down a minute. One bad week, one bad session does not make a year, right? And so when you think about like the amount of focus we put into the grandiose, right, the extraordinary, it is 20 times as much as the amount of effort and detail we put into making sure we get that 30-minute run in the day. And conversely, the athlete that has these giant expectations, right, and you have this level, the farther you portray you are from it, right, whether perceived or real, whether from life obstacles or self-sabotage, your ability to override and overcome the inconsistencies in life, the sicknesses, the niggles, the injuries, the lack of motivation, the not even getting a lot of sleep, the I don't want to go to the pool. That's when the self-sabotage creeps in. And you just then decide, well, I've already missed my goal. It's March. I took a few weeks off in February. I'm not feeling too good. I feel like I'm behind. Well, the next day you get up and you got a bike ride on tap and you really don't feel like doing it. I mean, I know I'm not going to PR in September, so whatever, I'll just skip it. Because you're rarely ever standing still, right? You're either taking steps forward or steps backwards. And the truth is as athletes, we have no idea what fitness will show when we get to the start line and how many steps forward will equal what performance day. Could be 300 steps forward, could equal this. We have no idea because there's no exact equals. It's a range, right? Like I'll give Allie or I'll put out like to anyone tracking me or on site, like, I have a great, I have a good, and I have a very subpar level, like time frame that I give for each individual segment of the race. So I'll do a swim, great swim, good swim, not a great swim. And even just those ranges are within 45 seconds to a minute and a half. So you're looking at over just a 70.3 swim, you're looking at a 4 to 4.5 minute buffer. The same thing for the bike, right? It's 3 to 4 minutes for each one. Same for the run. It's like a minute and a half to 2 minutes for each one. And if you look at the buffer between all of those, it's like a 15-minute from great day to not my day, right? But the thing is that none of it's predictable, because like some of the races where I predicted I'd be the best in, I was by far the not. Some of the races where I felt like I would be terrible in, I was really good at. And so you can't put all your eggs in that basket, nor can you make the decision on each day with the basket that you have and what it may or may not lead to in the future. And I've said this a million times, but I'll say it again. The best athletes that I work with, that get the most out of themselves, are the ones that just fall in love with the day-to-day. That's it. With the 30-minute runs, with the 20-minute recovery runs, with the active recovery spins, with the 2K easy, recovery day spins, with an hour and a half easy ride, they don't get distracted by the goals, right? By making you make bad decisions one way or the other. And they don't get distracted by the guy creeping up on their left on Zwift and try to chase them. Instead of being an hour and a half easy zone 2, they go zone 4 for 45 minutes and hang tight and get, 33rd place on, the climb for the day. They don't do that. They just stay focused on the day. They don't get distracted, right? They might miss a workout, but that doesn't mean they start back over Monday. It means they get back on the horse and start back the next day. And some of the biggest compliments I give to an athlete in Training Peaks is for the ones that might be red Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then get green Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because it would have been so easy just to say, God, this whole week went to crap.
Yeah.
But it didn't, because you still had more of the week left than you've missed. So technically, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a net loss of 3, you could still have a net gain of 4, and the week could be a plus. And I was like, man, way to rally this weekend and get it done. Right? Because you shows the ability to roll with the punches. And what happens is that also shows up, right? When you're not a perfect Pat, when not every session has to be great. Or, I missed Tuesday and Thursday. So now when I look at your Saturday and Sunday, now you've got basically an Olympic or a 70.3 full distance triathlon on Saturday and Sunday because you moved all your workouts the weekend. That also shows weakness and inability to be objective. It shows panic. It shows no restraint, and it shows total lack of objectivity of what gets you to race day healthy and what's actually possible. You're going to miss sessions. Get back on the horse, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just commit to getting the job done. And who knows what'll happen on race day? Who knows? It's a total mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Total mystery what happened. And, and so all you can really do is focus on, again, being undeterred and getting the work in the best you can today, and then leaving the rest for tomorrow, and then doing it again, and then see where you end up. Because the truth of the matter is, 400 steps forward might yield you, 530, 70.3. But the other side of it is that, but if you didn't feel that great and the weather was shitty, 245 steps forward on a perfect day where you just were able to pull it out of nowhere could give you a 520. And I think that's the unpredictable nature of endurance sports is one of my favorite things about it. Because if you knew exactly what the time would be, would you do the work? And would it be fun? And would the journey be the same? No. It wouldn't. You have no idea how fast you'll ever be. No one does. No one. You have no idea what the time you race. You can hope, you can dream, you can fantasize, you can, do data and graphs and whatever, but it doesn't. And the athletes that like to fantasize and focus more so on what's 8 months away, and they want to discuss what's more important, what's important in 8 months versus the small losses, right? The areas of, or excuse me, not the small losses, but the areas of improvement for winning in that week. That's the ultimate level of distraction for athletes. Hey coach, I kind of want to know what the plan is for Ironman Wisconsin. Tell me what our focus blocks are going to be like. Tell me what I'm like. Listen, I can do that. But the truth is you've missed 40% of your workouts the last month or so. So I have no idea where we're going to be. And that might sound harsh, but it's true, right? Instead, hey, why don't we just focus on being 75 to 80% compliant? Because that's the most predictive piece is consistency. When you can be the most consistent, it's so much easier to predict a person's time, right? It'd be like, it'd be like me asking you, Mike, like, hey, Mike, what do you think my bike split's going to be in Ironman Texas? And you're coaching me and you go back and I've got 7 long rides between 4 hours and 4.5 hours and 5.5 hours. You could be like, you know what? Maybe not your bike split, but I can tell you what you could probably hold, right, watt-wise for X amount of time. Not hard, right? You have the you have the information at hand to educate you to make a good decision. Versus, hey, Mike, what do you think I'm going to do at Ironman Texas Bike Supplies? And you look at my stuff and you're like, well, you got a 4.5 hour ride and 1 6 hour and 20-minute ride, and you missed the other ones. I got no clue. Right? You got no clue. You got nothing to work off of. And so again, like when you look at, focusing too much on the future, right, and doing that future tripping, you're going to stump your toe today. You might not trip all the way and fall, face first. You might trip on a curb, stump your toe on the coffee table leg, which is like the worst possible injury you could possibly have. Mm-hmm. You might go step on a Lego, downstairs in the basement with the lights are off your kids, which another, it's like grenades on the floor. But it's just it's mental, right? Because it causes chinks in the armor and in my opinion, increases your ability to not dig deep the closer you get, because you already perceive your previous goal as unattainable.
Some good stuff there, man. When I start shaking this down, we talk about things like the hardest part of the run is getting your shoes on and that type of thing. And I've heard it probably 20 times a week, 30 times a week, I hear, I felt really stiff. It took me forever to get loose. I didn't want it, It's like our challenge becomes, we wake up a lot and I don't feel like going to work, or I don't feel like doing this workout. I mean, some people, like you're talking about, just get into it, and that's just, I think what we do is we lump the overall pressure of the whole entirety of the training into one day and think, man, I don't know how much longer I can keep going, versus just, hey, I just need to do a 30-minute run today. And that's it. And that'll be enough. But we have to sort of battle this, I don't want to do it a lot, or I don't feel like doing this. And that's it. It's for everything. And I think that's the muscle that is at work most of the time. And as we were talking about this, I think back to, doing Ironman, and maybe it's the bike, right? I'm halfway through the bike, and maybe I haven't trained enough, or as much as I would have liked, but I start getting those things like, I don't know if I can get to mile 100, or I don't feel like going to it. But then you kind of have to flip a switch, right? And it's that mental game that I think we're always practicing, and we can always amaze ourselves. And I've lived through it so much that I have tremendous confidence in my athletes to be able to do things, especially if, like your example, 4.5 hour ride and a 6 hour and 20-minute ride, and that's it. I'm like, okay, well, you've gotten there. You've proven that you can kind of do it. Why not do it in a race, right? Yes, you can do it. Who knows what'll happen on the run? Who knows how great of a bike it'll be, but you got it in you, right? So just stay within yourself, stay mentally engaged in the moment and what you're doing. These things just sort of happen. If you don't, it's the same thing in a race. Is we start the swim thinking about the run or something like that, we're way ahead in our minds, and it becomes such a tremendous burden the whole day. That's all I think about when I'm in the swim, is like, I just don't start thinking about anything else, because it's going to feel daunting. If you're thinking about just,
it's going to make it feel heavier.
Yeah, 100%, man. I always talk about it, but that day at Wisconsin, the rainy day, the cold day, I'm standing in the mud in my bare feet in my wetsuit, and it's pouring rain. It's going to rain all day. All I could think about was, I don't want to do this at all, any of it. I knew I had 12 to 14 hours ahead of me in a shitty weather day, 50 degrees, 55 degrees, and I didn't want to do any of it, but somehow I flipped the switch into just getting that water and take it one stroke at a time, and just get done with the swim and then pedal one stroke at a time, and just figure out a way to get it done, rather than heaping that whole heavy burden on yourself and getting ahead of yourself. I mean, it's an analogy for training. You can think about that. It's February. All you got to do today is, 30-minute run and a little swim. Just do that. And then, but I think we just have a tremendous ability of putting way too much overall pressure on getting the whole thing done in one day, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and then judging today's workout within the context of a whole race. Like, I could have never done that today. That seems insurmountable. But you just, it's anything, whether it's building a house, you got to start with somewhere. You just got to dig a little bit at first, you can't, you're not putting on shingles yet.
And why add that stressor? That's stressor. Yeah, I guess that's stressor. That was my combo of pressure and stress. Why add that stress, right? And that pressure to a life and an individual that already has that.
Oh yeah.
Right. Think about it. We already have, regardless of your life situation, a baseline level of fairly significant, heavy life pressure, right? And stress. Why? What good can come from additional added on your own, doing it voluntarily onto your own session that's supposed to make you feel good, feel healthier, and feel happier and relieve stress? You can't answer that in a way that doesn't say, that sounds ridiculous, right? Everybody, we all have a pretty solid level, regardless of how you decide and how capable and you're able to manage it, it's still there, right? And so it takes away energy. So why go out, right? Here, you wake up and, God, I had a rough night's sleep, had an argument with my spouse. I got an important meeting today at 12 with my boss. I'm not even sure how that's going to go. My kids got, the sport thing coming up. It's really stressful. I got 30 minutes on, man, but also, man, I should really take this as like a super easy run. It make me feel better. It will remove the stress. And then on the other shoulder, your future, I'm like, well, yeah, but how are you going to qualify for world championships if you don't go zone 3 and do your sprint work today?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, shit. Now what do you do? Right? Why add that pressure to yourself? I legit will never understand why, because I'll read through it every day. Yeah, I just really thought this was going to be a lot better than it was. And I'm just really disappointed. Well, you know what? I hate you feel that way, but that's on you. Stop thinking about it. Just go out and do it. Just go out and do it. Do the session, best of your ability, rinse, repeat. Go out, do your workout the best of your ability, rinse, repeat. Don't latch on to the great ones. Don't latch on to the bad ones. Just let them go. But we like to stare at it. Like, again, both ends of the spectrum. Man, that was great. I'm gonna look back and see how much faster I've gotten the last 4 or 5 years. Great, do that. Or you have one backward. Let me spend the next 45 minutes going through Training Peaks trying to figure out why I've gotten slower, even though every run has been fantastic, except for the one that I just did. Getting slower. I'm getting so I don't know how. I feel like I'm getting slower in the pool. I just don't know what happened. Like, what should we do to change? Like, dude, last Wednesday you sent me a screenshot of your 5-100, so we're all faster than your PR pace ever. Oh, well, I guess you're right. Like, what? What planet are we living on? But we get so caught up because when we hear the great, when we see the great, when we feel the good, when we do the good, all we tell ourselves, right, with that mentality is all I am is on track. I'm not killing it. I'm not doing awesome. I'm not feeling it. I'm not progressing great. I'm not getting stronger. I'm not getting faster. I'm not getting healthier. I'm not getting happier. I'm not getting fitter. I'm just simply on track. That's it. That's as great as you can feel. Okay, I'm on track. But with the slightest bad day or sickness or just I didn't have it today. I mean, it's so like, and I think coaches like we're uniquely positioned, right, to know, because we read it every day. Terrible workout Monday, incredible workout Tuesday. What changed? Nothing, but they woke up the next day and worked out. That's it.
Yeah,
that is it. And so again, like when you put so much behind one thing, you're rarely ever going to, see it for really truly what it is. And that's why, putting so much behind it, it can be, it can really just be disastrous for a lot of people's years.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm always fascinated with in Ironman for an example is, because I've heard over the years, that people, and this people say that if you're doing it right, the race should feel fairly easy for the most part. I mean, it's going to be a hard day. No, don't get me wrong, but I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make swimming, biking, and running feel easier, whether it's by form or by the way I'm thinking about it or the way I'm approaching it, or if I'm pulling back or my pacing or whatever it is. I'm looking for easy ways, and that doesn't mean shortcuts. That just means figuring out how to alleviate some of the burden of whatever I'm doing. And I think I think it can be an analogy for life too. Or, if you're training all the time with that, podium on your brain, that's just an extra weight. Everything we carry around in our brain makes the workouts more difficult in general. I think, when I'm out, I think that a lot of times really is what happens. If people go have a good workout, for whatever reason, they've freed their mind. They might have a terrible Monday, like you said, and then Tuesday was great. What happened? Well, maybe on Monday you felt like Sunday wasn't that, your long run or whatever wasn't that great. And now you're in your head thinking about, I don't know if I'm as good as I thought I was, whatever. And then Monday sucks. And then it wasn't as big a deal, and it sort of recovered you a little bit. And then Tuesday you're kind of sailing a little freer. And I really do think that, we do carry a lot of, it's sort of like this, it's great when you can get in that mindset of treating your workouts like an escape. Like, hey, I'm just going to go out and be in this workout. And you hear that all the time versus, I got to go blow off some steam, because then you're out running thinking about work and other shit on your mind. And I just think sometimes that adds like a whole nother layer of effort and takes shit out of you. You blow off steam, and then it may feel good in the short run, but boy, you can be exhausted after stuff like that, because you're just mentally running so many different things through your head rather than just kind of breathing and being in the workout and thinking about what you're doing versus what you're not doing and all the other shit that's coming down the pike. And I think those things play a huge role. If you're free out there, if you're running free, like you like to say, that's where you're winning, and that's the goal. Obviously, when you get to race day, is to be able to get out there and swim, bike, and run free, not with all kinds of personal stresses and everything else on your mind. I just think you can blow off steam so many times before that you got no steam to blow off anymore. And then you need, the next thing you know, like you're saying, you're missing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I really like what you said there, because, yeah, you miss a couple days in the beginning of the week, but you pull it together and then just nail Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day, man.
Yep, all day.
I'm so into that, because it's so easy to turn that whole thing into Monday. I'll just start Monday. But if you can get out and do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday and do it well, man, you're right. You're fine.
What's priority? I mean, we can simplify it like that and we can close it out. But, the priority is today. You can't have what you want to have in 8 months if you can't make priority today. So if you miss Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, don't spend 30 minutes trying to rework your schedule so you can start over next Monday. Go run for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Use it wisely, and stay focused. But again, I can't emphasize enough, to the amount of added pressure people put on themselves is just so counterproductive. Because and any coach should never put pressure on. I mean, I get in arguments sometimes with athletes because I refuse to give them a time that I think they're capable of. I refuse. No, not doing it. What do you think I can do? And it's always 4 months out. It's never like 2 days before. What do you think I can do? No clue. Well, when can you tell me? I'm not. Well, why not? Well, frankly, because you put enough pressure on yourself and race day is too predictable. It is a negative return and does no one any good. Period. Never. Doesn't do anybody any good. Because you won't try to excel, or you'll fall to the level of the time that you thought, or you'll feel like it's unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean any good. The unpredictable nature of it that's why it's so great, right? That's why surprises are great like that, right? And so you have to disassociate and detach from that. It's good to have in the background, like maybe thinking about we're having lunch, or, dreaming off during a Zoom or conference call you don't want to be on. Think about while you're on your run, how it's going to feel. That's great. Visualizing is awesome, right? I think it's fantastic, especially the closer you get to race day. Visualizing is great. It's great for performance. It's great for relieving anxiety. It's great for being in the moment, and it's great preparation. But there's a difference in visualizing and obsessing, right? There's a huge difference. And because obsessing usually means I'm looking for things that go wrong, right? Oh, I've got a headache today. And you look on the internet, what signs of headache? And there's this like, well, it could be cancer. And then there's 738 different things ahead of headache that are the other signs. And you're like, oh, well, I think I got to the doctor. I might have cancer. That's the obsessing, like distractive, anxiety piece. The real, solution is probably like, oh, well, I haven't drank water since yesterday at 5 p.m. That's my answer. It could have been like, go back in your own clock and like solve the problem and get the answer. That's it. That's the answer. Yeah, but we like to spend extra time figuring out worst case scenario. And a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a really important point. There's a lot of times I feel like shit when I get up, but I don't like give in to the whole day right there. And that's an analogy for training too. I might feel like shit when I start, but I don't give in. I just keep looking for ways, right? Like you said, it could just be I need more water or whatever, or what's going on. I think it's just so easy to sort of cower back and just give in to the fact that you don't feel like you think you should feel, whatever that is. And then you kind of layer on, the negative thought on top of it, and it makes you feel even worse. So it really is about, kind of always looking for a different state of mind in a lot of ways, because it is a challenge. How do you get through a long work project? I can't do this. And then you just kind of figure out a way to get more energy, or just, you're always looking for ways. And I feel like that's kind of how I approach stuff. And I think you do too, obviously. And just because you just figure out a way.
Yeah. Choose the don't get too wrapped up, and then choose the positive. Like, I'll share this quick story and we can be done. But like, Hayden's been having some, every kid I think goes through like nightmares at some point. He's been having nightmares and having some anxiety about some things. And I was putting him to bed the other night. We read a book, and Tony the Zamboni, which is, I couldn't recommend that book enough. It's fantastic. But we read Tony the Zamboni, and we're laying there, and he's and we always kind of lay there, and we'll always kind of do a thing where I'll share about my hardest part of the day and my best part of the day, and he'll do the same. And then he just said, what if I have another nightmare again? And I'm like, well, we deal with it, but if you assume you're going to have a nightmare and you're thinking about having a nightmare, what that might look like, you're more than likely going to have a nightmare. And I said, but what I like to do is, before I go to bed, try to picture out what I think, what I want to dream about that night, and make it something really fun and awesome. And I'm more likely to dream about that because I'm choosing to think about something happy and a positive. And I said, well, and he said, well, all right, well, what's your dream for tonight? I'm like, crap. And I said, well, to see all green and training peaks for every athlete. No, I'm kidding. I said,
cruising with a Tesla.
Exactly. Yeah. I said, Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals in Nashville, Preds against Panthers. We're sitting on the glass. That's my dream. That's my dream for the night. I was, oh, that would be fantastic. I said, what's yours? Expected to be like some like, oh, me and you are together. We're doing some father and son. He goes, I would be, oh man. He goes, I would be Toad in Mario Kart. driving around, and he rattled off his favorite course. He's like, I'm zooming around, and then I pass so and so, and I get first place. Like, all right, well, there you go. So when you close your eyes tonight, get in that car, be towed, and go zooming around, and have that. And again, it's not the exact same thing, but it's still it's a choice to try to go down a different road. It's not a guarantee that your mind isn't going to veer off into anxiety or being depressed or being anxious or feeling down or feeling discouraged. It doesn't mean that. But I do think, and I do believe that being more positive, one, it increases your likelihood to be positive as you go down that path, right? But even if you don't stay there, you've gone down that path long enough to where it's a much longer trek to get back to the negative. So if you go a mile down the positive path, you got to come a mile all the way back to get to the negative one. Instead of just choosing, right, when you come to a fork in the road, left is positive, right is negative. And some people, we know these people, they are always going left for the positive, no matter what. They see everything as sunshine and rainbows in life. I don't know how they do it. Then you have other people who it's always a hard ride. Always the negative.
More familiar.
Always, right? Always the negative. And so again, just at least try to stay left, right? Stay left with the positive. Because again, if you're going to go negative, you got to come all the way back to the baseline again to go negative. And then hopefully by then, you'll have had the chance and opportunity to kind of rethink your decision. And so when you do that with life and do that with training, I promise it'll make the journey a lot easier to feel out, and a lot easier and more fun along the way.
Yep. We are what we think and expose ourselves to.
Yep. True that. Mm-hmm. True that. That is it. That is all that we have today. We hope you got something out of it. Hopefully you can apply it to your own life. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and it's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he is available at new email address, Mike at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from me, I am at Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
Just rolls off your tongue, dude.
It's a hard habit to break. I have to really think about it.
So now, all right. Yeah.
And there it is.
Just see, I got ahead. I future tripped right there in a negative way. I was thinking, man, I got to update that thing everywhere. But maybe I don't.
No, just let it flow, man.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Just go left.
Just going left.
Just go left.
Yeah.
All right, dude. I'll see you later. We'll see everyone next week. Actually, that's a lie. Total blatant lie. We're out next week. We're at Run Camp. Starts on Monday, so we will have no live podcast next week, but Mike will be reposting some of our favorites with some new show notes. Take a listen to those. We'll be back the following week. So we'll see you then.
All right, buddy. That sounds good, man. I look forward to getting down to Tennessee.
All right, man. See you Tuesday.
See ya.